A woman is standing at a bank counter with her father's whole life tucked in a folder under her arm. Her dad, I'm going to call him Frank, had a stroke 4 days ago. He's in a hospital bed across town. He's alive, but he can't speak, he can't sign his name, and he can't tell anyone what he wants. And the bills have already started. The mortgage on his house is due next week. The hospital wants a payment. A care facility needs a deposit just to hold his bed. Here's the thing. Frank has the money. It's right there, in the accounts at this bank, the savings he built over 40 years of work. His daughter, who I'll call Diane, can see the balance on the screen behind the teller. She knows his PIN, she has his debit card in her purse, and she is completely legally locked out of all of it. Now, Diane is not careless. Diane did what you are supposed to do. Years ago, she sat her father down and got him to sign a power of attorney. And she has it with her right now in that folder. She slides it across the counter. And the teller, who is not being cruel, who is actually trying to follow the law, looks at it and says the words that are about to cost this family months of their lives and thousands of dollars. I'm sorry, we can't accept this. How is that possible? How can a daughter, standing there holding a signed power of attorney, be told she cannot pay her own father's mortgage with her own father's money? That is what this video is about, because there is one document, one single piece of paper, that decides whether you can step in and help your mom or dad on the worst day of their life, or whether you stand at that counter helpless. And there are 3 quiet ways that document fails, even when you were sure you'd done everything right. And there is one deadline, one specific moment, after which it becomes too late to fix any of it. A deadline almost nobody warns you about until they're already past it. So here's my promise for the next 20 minutes. You'll know exactly what that document is, in plain English. You'll know the 3 traps that made the bank turn Diane away, so they never happen to you. You'll see the far worse alternative waiting for the families who don't have this document at all. And you'll know exactly how to make sure that when your day at that counter comes, and for most of us it comes, you walk out with what you need instead of what Diane walked out with. And yes, I'm going to tell you how Diane's morning ended. But first, let me be honest with you, the way I always will be, because trust is the only thing that matters on a channel like this. Frank and Diane are composites. I've changed the names and the details, and I've built their story out of the real, documented ways this happens to families every single day. Nothing you're about to hear is exaggerated. If anything, I've made it simpler than the real paperwork actually is. And I am not your attorney. The rules around this vary from state to state, and they change over time. So treat this as the map, not the legal directions. The person who hands you the directions, drawn for your state, is a certified elder law attorney, and I'll tell you exactly when in this story you need to go find one. Okay, let's start with the document itself. The piece of paper Diane needed is called a durable power of attorney for finances. And I want to translate every single word of that name, because each one is doing a job. A power of attorney is simply a document where your parent, while they are still clear-headed, names someone they trust to handle their money if the day comes that they can't. The person they name is called the agent. Usually, it's an adult child. Maybe it's you. Now, the most important word in that whole name is durable, and here is why it is everything. A plain, ordinary power of attorney, the kind someone might sign to let another person handle a single transaction, stops working the moment that person becomes incapacitated. Think about how backwards that is for a second. The ordinary version quits at the exact moment you finally need it. A durable power of attorney is the opposite. That one word, durable, means the authority survives. It keeps working even after your parent can no longer make decisions for themselves. So for a parent facing a stroke, or Alzheimer's, or any kind of slow decline, durable is not a nice to have. It is the entire point. Without that one word, the document is built to fail you on the only day it matters. And then, for finances, because there is a completely separate document for medical decisions, a healthcare power of attorney, and I'm going to come back to why confusing those 2 leaves a dangerous hole most families never see. The financial one is the one that gets you through the door at the bank. Now, here is the deadline that nobody warns you about. The quiet, cruel catch sitting at the center of this entire video. In order to sign a power of attorney, your parent has to have mental capacity at the moment they sign it. They have to be able to understand what the document is and what it means to hand that authority over. I need you to really hear that, because it is the whole ballgame. The document that protects your parent after they lose the ability to manage their own affairs can only be created while they still have that ability. So the window, the real clock in this story, is your parent's mind. Every day your mom or dad is still clear enough to understand a document and sign their name is a day this is still possible. But the day that window closes, the day the dementia advances past a certain point, the day a stroke takes their speech, the door doesn't just get harder to open, it locks. From that moment on, a power of attorney cannot be signed. Not by them, not by you, not by anyone on earth. And the only path left runs straight through a courtroom. I'll take you into that courtroom later in this video because it is the part that should scare you into doing something this week. But now you understand the clock. So let's go back to Diane, standing at that counter, because Diane actually had a power of attorney in her hand, and the bank still said no. How? There are 3 traps, and Diane hit more than one of them. The first trap is the simplest and the most heartbreaking. Her document wasn't durable. It was an old, basic power of attorney her dad had signed years earlier for something unrelated, and it didn't contain that magic word, the language that says this authority survives his incapacity. So the instant Frank became incapacitated, the document quietly died. It looked official, it had his signature, and it was worth nothing the moment he could no longer speak for himself. This is why a generic fill-in-the-blank form off the internet is so dangerous. It can look exactly like the real thing and be missing the one phrase that makes it work. The second trap catches even the families who got a durable document. It's called a springing power of attorney. A springing POA is one that's designed to stay asleep, to grant no power at all, until your parent is officially declared incapacitated. It sounds reasonable, even responsible. Mom keeps full control until the day she truly can't. But in the real world, springing powers cause exactly the problem Diane is living, because now, before the bank will honor it, somebody has to prove that Frank is incapacitated, usually with 1 or more letters from physicians, certifying it in writing, in the specific way the document demands. And that takes time, days, sometimes weeks, all while the mortgage is due and the facility is asking for its deposit. This is why most elder law attorneys today steer families away from springing powers and toward a durable power that is effective immediately, relying on the trust between parent and child instead of a medical trigger that jams at the worst possible moment. And the third trap is the one that feels the most unfair, because you can do everything right and still hit it. The bank decided Diane's document was stale and that it wasn't on their form. Stale just means old. Many banks get nervous about a power of attorney that was signed years ago because they worry it might have been revoked or replaced since then, and they don't want the liability of guessing wrong. Some banks will also insist that your parent signed their bank's own in-house form and nothing else. Now, here's the part you should know. In many states, the law is actually on your side here. A number of states require financial institutions to accept a valid power of attorney or to respond within a set number of days, and some make a bank that refuses without a good reason liable for the costs of forcing them to comply. But knowing your rights in the moment, while you're panicking at a counter with bills piling up, is cold comfort. The fix for this trap happens long before the crisis, and I'll give it to you in the plan. So that's how a loving, prepared daughter ends up locked out. A document that wasn't durable or was springing or was too old or wasn't the bank's flavor of the same form. But I have to tell you, Diane is one of the lucky ones, because she at least had a document to argue about. Let me show you what happens to the millions of families who have nothing at all, because that's not a worse version of the same problem. It's a different universe. And before I do, if your parent is healthy and clear-headed right now today, I'm talking to you specifically for the next minute, because everything painful in this video traces back to one thing. Somebody waited. They figured there was time. And the cruel joke of capacity is that you almost never know which lucid afternoon was the last good window until it's already behind you. So whatever else you take from this, take that. Now, the families with no document. Here's the assumption almost everyone makes, and it is dead wrong. People believe that if the worst happens, they'll just step in. I'm her husband. I'm his daughter. Of course they'll let me handle it. They will not. This is the single most dangerous misunderstanding in this whole subject. Without a power of attorney or a trust giving you financial authority, no family member, not a spouse, not an adult child, nobody has any automatic legal right to access your parents' bank accounts, pay their bills from those accounts, manage their investments, or sell their property. Being family gives you love. It does not give you legal authority. And when there's no document, there's only one way to get that authority. You have to ask a court. That process is called guardianship, or in some states, conservatorship. And it is exactly the expensive, slow, public ordeal that a power of attorney exists to prevent. To get it, you petition a court to declare your own parent legally incapable of managing their affairs. There are filing fees and attorney's fees that routinely run into the thousands of dollars. There are doctors' evaluations. There may be a court-appointed investigator and a hearing. The whole thing commonly takes months during which those bills are still going unpaid. Your parents' private financial life becomes part of the public court record, open for anyone to read. And it usually doesn't end when the judge rules, because in many cases the guardian has to keep reporting back to the court year after year, accounting for every dollar. All of that, the cost, the delay, the loss of privacy, the loss of your parents' independence to a judge who never met them, all of it is what a single signed document, done in time, is designed to make unnecessary. So let's go back and finish Diane's morning because I promised you I would. Diane got lucky, and I want to be honest that it was luck. A few days after that awful scene at the counter, Frank stabilized. He couldn't speak well, but on one good afternoon his mind was clear. Clear enough that an elder law attorney, brought in quickly, could sit with him, confirm he understood, and have him sign a fresh, properly drafted, durable power of attorney. One that was effective immediately. One built to the standards the bank couldn't refuse. And a week later, Diane walked back into that branch, and this time she walked out able to pay her father's mortgage. But I need you to hear the word I keep using. Lucky, Frank happened to have a lucid window. Millions don't. A stroke or an advanced dementia can take that window away entirely and never give it back, and then there is no fresh signature and there is no fix, and the courtroom is the only door left. Diane built her family's whole outcome on a coin flip. You don't have to. You can decide it now, while it's still a choice and not a crisis. So here is your plan. First, if your parent is alive and clear-headed, the most loving, most protective thing you can do is also one of the most boring. Help them put a durable power of attorney for finances in place now, while there is no emergency and no pressure and no question about capacity. The best time was years ago. The second best time is this month. Second, make it bank ready because, as Diane learned, just having one isn't enough. That means, with an attorney's guidance, make it durable so it survives incapacity. Make it effective immediately rather than springing, so no one has to chase doctor's letters in a crisis. Make sure it grants broad, clearly worded financial powers. And name a backup agent in case the first person can't serve. These are exactly the kinds of details a generic form gets wrong and an elder law attorney gets right. Third, and this is the step that would have saved Diane's whole morning. Take the document to your parents' bank before you ever need it, while your parent is well, and ask them to put it on file. Ask if they have their own form they'd like signed too, and sign that as well. Introduce yourself as the agent. A 15-minute visit on a calm Tuesday is what stands between you and a locked counter on the worst day of your life. And because documents go stale, refresh it every few years so it never gets called too old. Fourth, mind the two gaps people miss. Remember that healthcare power of attorney I set aside earlier? That's a separate document for medical decisions, and it gives no authority at all over money. So your parent needs both, or you'll have control of the medical decisions and none of the financial ones, or the reverse. And one more that surprises almost everyone. A power of attorney, even a perfect one, generally does not let you manage your parents' Social Security. The Social Security Administration doesn't recognize powers of attorney for that. It requires a separate status called a representative payee, which you apply for directly. So if your mom or dad lives on that monthly check, that's a separate box you have to check. And here's the reframe to carry out of all this. A durable power of attorney is not you taking something from your parent. It's the opposite. It's your parent choosing, while they still can, who they trust, instead of leaving a judge to decide for them later. It is one of the kindest, cheapest, most powerful acts of love and protection a family can put in place. It is the difference between Diane's lucky coin flip and a family that never had to flip the coin at all. So if you remember one thing from everything we've covered, let it be this. This document only works if it's signed before the day you need it. Capacity is the deadline, and it's the one deadline that never sends a warning. The day you can no longer get it is the same day you finally need it. So don't wait for the warning. There won't be one. If your family has run into a version of this, a bank that said no, a document that failed, a scramble you never saw coming, tell me about it in the comments. Because someone is reading this right now at 2 in the morning, scared, wondering if they've left it too late, and your story might be the thing that gets them to act tomorrow. And here is your next step, because there's one more piece to this. A power of attorney protects your parent while they're alive, but the instant they pass away, that document dies with them. It stops working completely, and in that moment, control of everything they owned passes to an entirely different set of rules. There is one small form sitting on your parents' accounts right now that can quietly override their will completely, handing their money to the wrong person no matter what the will says. That's the next video. If your family's plan matters to you, watch it before you assume the will has the final word, because most of the time, it doesn't.